Hello, everybody. Lincoln, you missed it for the weekend. It seems it's already Monday. In fact, it's Monday, the 3rd of November. You joined. Wow, right? Scary. As you joined myself and the amazing, the glorious, the goddess of grain herself, Mrs. Angie Setzer, where Angie will be providing us with a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in grain markets. As a reminder, these are recorded live, so apologies for any profanities or if it gets a bit hectic, but that's just the way we are. You take us and you love us. This is why we're different from everyone else. There's no editing goes into the podcast at all. We just, whatever we say, it's what we mean. But before we do crack on and to cover
Just vibes over here. It's just vibes.
It's all vibes, baby. It's all vibes. But so we don't get into trouble, I will get the legals out of the way. Nothing discussed on this podcast is trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan, or indeed Angie, or anyone. Although if anyone does want to endorse us, we'll take your money and run. Well, maybe not run. I'll shut up now.
Anywhere, just so you know, you're safe.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Exactly. And how was your weekend?
Great. It was really good. Too short, but an hour longer than normal, so we'll not complain. I am that person just right now, ready your pitchforks, everyone, but I don't go into the darkness, the period of darkness, like November 1st through like March 1st. I think they call it kind of like the darkest. Yeah, I don't know. I call it the darkest times because woof, I can't take it. Like dark at 5:30, doesn't get light until 7 a.m. or whatever. So I put Christmas lights up. I call them like our winter lights.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right.
So do you know what?
No Santa Claus or anything, but yeah, my winter lights went up. I can't do it. I have to find joy.
If that's what you've got to tell yourself, dude.
That's it. So you guys, at this point, Santa Claus can sponsor us because ho, ho, ho. Anyway,
ho.
Yeah, welcome. Happy Monday. Just watching these markets. It's like the bean market right now feels like trying to hold a volleyball underwater or a beach ball. Excuse me. Same with wheat there. It's a Monday. You'll have to forgive me. But yeah, we're really right now, we're just kind of in the throes of what is going on with China. Feel like I should fire up some Fleetwood Mac rumors because we've got a lot of them. And everyone is really kind of like, we don't get this, whatever. We did see the White House fact sheet over the weekend clarified the 12 million metric ton of purchases this calendar year. And so everyone's one side of I wrote in my bullet point, naysayers be naysaying because everyone's just like, we can't ship that many beans by the end of the year. And it's like, yeah, you're right. You're right. We can't. But just so we're clear, COFCO US, COFCO China has a U.S. arm, COFCO US, who has another U.S. arm, your Growmark FS elevator system. Like, for us to pretend that COFCO doesn't have access to soybeans or could not possibly just flip a position long to go to China at any point in time and not necessarily lose much, like, it's a thing. So we have to see. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case. The cash market, though, is saying something is a happening. Like, you're still seeing a continuation. I did my weekend basis update, and even with all of the strength that we saw last week, you're still seeing Gulf basis firm, ADM Decatur firm, our local bean processor here firmed a dime, Friday alone. In Illinois, Havana has firmed 20 cents in the last week. Bungie Morristown, 15 cents. Like, you're seeing these big bean processors, even when the market rallied, 65 cents, I think, last week, firm basis, 15. There's a sign that something's happening in cash that is, a good demand on the front end, first off, because our spreads continue to firm, and B, a lack of supply availability on the back end too, because, if all of these farmers were holding on to all of these soybeans, you should see at least some signs of increased farmer selling in the basis. And you're just not at this point. And so, we'll see how this all plays out and what this all looks like, but right now you could easily argue that there's demand and it's exceeding supply availability, and we'll figure out where it's all going at some point in time. But with the China thing, purchases do not equal shipments, so like, just because we say by the end of the year, that doesn't mean they're going to ship it. And I have to cough 1 second. excuse me, Brazil, basically is going to have a little bit of a hole too. Everyone likes to talk that we only have November, December, but really it's through the end of February, or at least the middle part of February, before Brazil's logistics are going to be able to catch up, and they're really going to be able to put a decent amount of beans into the pipeline. Might even be the 1st of March. And so there's room for China to make the purchases, in their needs. There's also the government versus private. So everyone keeps focusing on the crusher, which makes sense to a certain extent, but the government can do what they want and put these beans into reserves and things like that at any point as well. And so there's just a lot of that. Flipping over into other commodities, we did hear rumors. You saw wheat rally pretty big over or on Friday.
Whoa, 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 whoa. So wheat actually can rally.
What? Wheat can. Yes. Wheat actually is 40 cents off of its low, very, very quietly. Like no one is talking about wheat. And wheat, was trading with a four handle on it within the last 3 weeks. I couldn't tell you the exact date because I blacked out. It got ugly. It got real ugly. And so yeah, wheat is rallied quietly but persistently, and a lot of people have tried to shut it down. Today you're seeing it again. We had been up 9 at one point or 8 cents higher at one point. We're currently only up a penny. But there were rumors that China had come in. I think the Bloomberg article, or it might be Reuters today, that's saying they are seeking wheat. But I've heard from a pretty good source that it was booked, that there was at least one cargo of soft white wheat booked. And a lot of people want to say, oh, well, China will buy from Australia, which is true. But the white wheat out of the US is something that is hard to find elsewhere. There's just something about it with the protein and the way you're able to blend it. We still blend a lot of white wheat into soft wheat for one, just so you can tell your friends this, you learned something new today. Soft wheat is the fun wheat. So you have soft red and soft white, both of which are winter wheats. Michigan grows them. And soft wheat is the fun wheat. It's the cakes, the cookies, stuff like that. Like there are different wheats do different things, right?
Got ya.
So, but with the white wheat too, you're just able to kind of make a heartier flour for those products. And so China tends to import a decent amount of wheat for blending every year. And so to see them come in and start making some soft wheat purchases off the PNW should not be a surprise. I do believe you are going to start to see them stockpile as we get closer to the end of the year into the front part of next year, excuse me. There are some major issues with their wheat planting currently. Like the country, last I knew, was less than 20% planted versus 50% on average and 60 some percent a year ago. And it's still very wet, still problematic. They're struggling to get the corn out in different places, and so we've got to really watch that, because China coming in to buy, for one, a month ago, I was told by a cash trader who handles China business that they were really wanting to get into the Milo market, sorghum. Both parties, like, we want to sell them sorghum, they want to buy the sorghum. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some signs that they're in to buy that. Wheat would make sense as well. And so would soybeans. Corn right now is going to be a bit of a struggle just because it's harvest time. Their cash prices are depressed, but northern stocks at ports are half of the 5-year average right now. You have a problem. Southern port stocks are in line with the 5-year average, and so it's not as concerning, but you're going to probably lose. One of the consultants that I work with on China cash grain, their number right now is between 15 and 20 million metric tons of corn lost in the flooding and the rain that we had this last go around. And so a lot of folks are like, well, we can feed other things. That's where your Milo comes in. That's where your, barley, like there's some additional barley feeding that could be done, some other things like that. Wheat, that would be probably why you would see some of the wheat come in. But you're going to, in my opinion, eventually see China have to come into the corn market. It just might be after the first of the year. And so overall, really, we're just going to be watching what they have to do. And the cash market is king. Like you're going to have a lot of people. And I hate having to be the one to be like, hold on, this administration might have, we have to give it time, but a lot of folks have spent a lot of time being like, this is impossible. This isn't going to happen. Nothing's going to come of it. Exports to China are going to be zero. Many of them have short memories now and are like, never said zero. Okay. We did. We had a lot of people saying zero. And so I don't know. We get a USDA report out in a couple weeks. I felt targeted. It was personal. Seth made it happen on a Friday. Yeah. It was scheduled to be out on the 10th. They moved it to the 14th. That was mean. I'm telling you. excuse me, but there's been a lot of folks that have been like, we lost a lot of data, well, with the closure or whatever. We didn't. They were still collecting the data. I have been told from a very, 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 very reliable source, very reliable, that we are still collecting the data. We're just not analyzing it. So part of why they pushed the report back this month is that they're going to spend the next 2 weeks
Right.
basically analyzing this additional data. And so we do have in-field data that will be used to generate a yield in this report. And so, yeah, we got a couple of weeks, but hold on to your butts because we could really run up against, production's going to be lower. Demand is probably going to be higher, but maybe production's not going to be as low as we anticipate or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. But it's going to be interesting nonetheless. Beyond that, you saw a continuation of escalation between Russia
Yeah.
and Ukraine. Ukraine targeted that port. I've heard through the grapevine, you're an old oil.
Oh, stop it. I
Haha.
wonder, do you know what? I wonder where this was going for a second. I was like, oh God.
What thoughts on the weekend developments or anything with Russia or Ukraine continuing to target Russian
Um,
infrastructure?
I
See?
think like, I'm not going to call on price of that because, officially they should be, we're seeing India and China saying they're actually going to reduce the amount they're importing from Russia anyway, well, at least from seaborne. And so I'm unsure how big that impact will be. I don't think it'll be that much of an impact purely on the price point of view. But in terms of the rhetoric and in terms of the escalation, I think it's significant because I believe, it seems like every day now we're seeing headlines of new oil facilities being struck, which we know that this is one of the only ways that Russia's getting any money into the country.
Yes.
So again, it feels like a lifetime ago we were talking about, potential ceasefires, but, we're seeing like it seems like a definite escalation from both sides in where they're attacking and what facilities they're attacking. And some of the facilities that were maybe off limits beforehand are definitely now on limits. I think we're still waiting for that clear-cut decision via Trump about what he's going to do with Tomahawk missiles. I think that will be the next kind of red line that will be crossed, or whether or not it will be crossed or not. But that's a definite red line for me that people will be looking at to see where we go next. Maybe we'll get more clarification this week. If not, again, just watching to see what's happening. Be interesting to see as well what's going on with like gas flows into Europe still, because we know for a fact that they are still going in there. That's still on the table. So if those get shut down, or those, for whatever reason, be it the EU's decision, which I think it's going to be probably unlikely at this time of year because they need to continue filling their storage. But yeah, if say Russia did say, do you know what, sod it, we're going to turn the taps off, we could see a lot of issues going on in Europe energy wise.
It's going to be interesting to watch. There's still I think Trump has made it pretty clear that he is not going to make this is my opinion, a direct decision on the Tomahawk. It'll
Yeah.
be a matter of it's going to be NATO gets to make the decision.
Yeah,
NATO,
that's
using air quotes.
yeah. I think this is
You know what I
one of the
mean?
times. Yeah, one of the times he's very happy to pass that buck off.
Yeah. And on top of that, one of the things that's quietly been happening is Ukraine has developed their own long range missiles, their own, using air quotes again, that you can't see, and so they are able to strike a lot further. Like the Tomahawk, right, is 1,500, is it miles or kilometers? Kilometers, right?
Feet and inches for me.
Kilometers. But it's a long way. Like the Tomahawk, obviously, but Ukraine has shown that they have capacity. Like they're striking very deep. But yeah, you're right. Like it's going to be something we have to watch, and to see them hit like another port or location close to a port or whatever over the weekend has my attention, simply because we are seeing Ukraine's logistic cost rise, and less people being like, sure, yeah, I'll go sit at the Black Sea port and get loaded with corn.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a great idea, simply because you can go elsewhere to get wheat. And so I think that's something that is of interest too, simply because we've seen such a huge slowdown in Ukraine exports of grain, and Russia has been slow so far. Though October, it appears they did pick up in a big way, and demand is picking up. So that'll be something that we'll want to watch. There's rumors of quality issues. There was an Argentina frost late last week, too. Worries that too much rain in Argentina has also caused problems, so we'll be watching that. There's a few other things. There were some rumors floating around that the administration is going to put off the small refinery exemption decision, and so that's why you saw soybean oil under pressure for much of last week. Who knows if that's true or not, because it's kind of on the back of similar sort of vein where you've seen soybean meal rally in a big way because we thought the government was going to delay the EUDR, the deforestation regulations, and it kind of, we all leaned in that direction, and that's not going to happen. Large and medium sized users are going to have to follow the EUDR rules starting the end of the year. And then the small, the very small, the micro, and some of those other ones will have that year. So that's been part of why you've seen some craziness in the meal market as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, as always, for your insights. I learnt today, whilst you've been talking, that sorghum in the UK actually is millet. So there you go. I've learned something today. So thank you for that. Listeners, thank you, whatever you're doing. Stay safe, keep it tight, and we'll get more insights from the goddess of the goddess of grain tomorrow.
I like that idea a lot better.
I thought you might. But on that note, see you all tomorrow.